36 AD, in the city of Jerusalem, Jewish leaders are doing everything in their power to crush a dangerous new cult, the cult of Christ. Just 3 years after Jesus' crucifixion, only a handful of his followers survives. If they can all be killed, their religion will die too. A conservative Jewish teacher presides over this persecution. His name is Saul, and he personally supervises the execution by stoning of one of the Christian leaders. Yet in time, this man will become Jesus' greatest messenger. More than half of the New Testament is made up from his writings. Many argue that without him, there would be no Christianity. Saul became Paul, and he shaped our world. Now, our investigators want to uncover the world that shaped him. The story starts in southwest Turkey, in Paul's hometown of Tarsus. It's still a busy town today, but historian Mark Wilson wants to find traces of the city that Paul knew, and which helped mold an extraordinary character.
It lies in a very fertile plain with much agriculture in the area. Textile production is prevalent in the area as well. So as you look around Tarsus today, it's a very prosperous and booming city.
It's become a site of Christian pilgrimage.
This is the area in Tarsus where Paul lived, and all pilgrims to the city visit this area.
It's widely believed that this well was in use 2,000 years ago and that St. Paul drank its water.
This would have been a water source for his family. And because of this, many people believe this is holy water in the well.
There's little in Paul's own writings about his hometown, but other sources reveal a striking and significant fact. Tarsus once stood on the shores of the Mediterranean. The sea has since receded several miles, but this was once a major port.
In the first century, it was a very bustling city on a major crossroads, and also a noted university town, the Athens of the East.
And just 1 block from Paul's well, new evidence is emerging that gives us new insight into life here at that time. Recent building works were halted when workers found ancient ruins buried right beneath the town's center. Examining the find, the archaeologists realized that they were looking at a row of stores, an ancient mall dating back to the 1st century, Paul's time. The walls of this excavation pit are marked with layer on layer of artifacts. Successive generations lived here. But it's the discovery of a street at the bottom of the pit that provides the biggest clue. It's a paved road. And it's dead straight. Only one civilization built like this: the Romans. Local archaeologist Nadir Durgun points out other evidence of Roman occupation.
You can see the rain gutters each side of the road.
Oh, amazing.
Yes,
look at those.
the white stones. And it's visible, there are a lot of wheel traces on the road, wheel tracks. You know, carriages, coaches use the road.
As a port, Tarsus was wealthy. That made it an attractive target for the Romans, and they occupied it in the decades before Paul's birth. This Roman presence would have a major influence on the way he would be brought up.
This street is amazing because the young Paul probably played and walked along this street when he was a boy growing up in this city.
Archaeological investigations enable us to recreate what ancient Tarsus would have looked like. This was a busy commercial center. Paul would have come into contact with people of different nationalities, different faiths.
Perhaps Paul came down here and bought some groceries or traded in produce. His family, of course, were leather workers, tent makers, and they would have worked down in this central area of the city as well.
Tradition has it that his family were craftsmen and traders. They certainly had the means to give him a privileged education. He's raised a strict Jew and called by the Jewish name of Saul. But he's also a Roman citizen, something which will prove advantageous throughout his life. And he's taught Greek, the ancient international language of diplomacy. He grows up part of the establishment, a member of a learned Jewish elite. His first taste of travel is to Jerusalem. He goes there as part of his education. And this is where he first encounters the followers of Jesus, a young revolutionary teacher whose popular support makes him a major threat to the authorities. To Saul, Jesus is the enemy.
In fact, he was so zealous that he was involved in persecuting this new cult of people who are following Jesus as the Messiah.
There's no evidence that Saul ever met Jesus, but we know he considered his teachings blasphemous. And after the crucifixion, he devoted his life to wiping out his followers.
This was basically a nascent group that was forming in cities throughout Palestine, and Paul thought if he could kill and deprive these communities of their leadership, perhaps he could snuff out this new religion.
It is this background, conservative, traditional, violently anti-Christian, that makes the story of Paul's conversion all the more remarkable.